This 20-foot one-time use shipping container has 10 540-watt solar panels installed. This thing, coupled with its batteries, inverters, and a generator, has enough juice to run an entire town. If you want to learn more, stay tuned in this video. We are going to show you our modular system to mount these panels in a fully adjustable way that transports down the highway. Hope you learned something. To give you a little backstory on this project, this is a $450,000 modified 20-foot container. This isn't your everyday container that's going to be available to every person in their backyard, but what we're going to learn from this job will transfer over to the DIY market in future kits released by Container Modification World. So this specific unit here is going to have two different rooms. There's going to be a mechanical room and then a climate controlled room for all the sensitive equipment. The mechanical room is going to have a transformer and the outside condenser boxes, which are going to condensate. And so because of that, we're going to remove the plywood wood flooring that's traditionally in the containers. And we do that by using a wood skill saw first, and then we go over it with a metal blade in a circular saw just to make sure that we don't nick any of the cross members, and then remove the wood flooring, and we replace that with 1.25 inch bar grating. We secure the bar grating with grating clips. They're special clips right back to the original cross members of the shipping container. Once that mechanical room's kind of prepped, we need to separate that room from the sensitive equipment area, and we do that with our traditional partition wall. So we will mount that to our strut channel framing, and so we do the strut channel framing in this instance so we can get a very nice vapor barrier all around the framing members. And then we also install our strut strapping on the back of the strut channel, and that strut strapping allows us to secure our PVC white reline wall panels too, which gives a nice Class A flame spread interior finish, and it's a super bright interior, as you'll see later. The only other thing to talk about is that partition wall. It's our traditional galvanized partition wall that we utilized, but then we also put in some, we put 4 10-inch intake dampers, something we might change in the future, but we put them there. And then on the inside, the finished portion of that, we also have some grates that are closable. So if it does hit -40 and we don't want to be pulling any air in, the operator can close those right off. What's going to tug on those intake dampers is the T16 exhaust fan. So this is the second or third time that we've utilized this, and it works so great with our strut lined interiors. When we're strut lining it every second corrugation, that fan fits in there perfectly. And then right beside that, for egress, is a man door to access this sensitive equipment room here. And so we've used Container Modification World's dual swinger man door. So once we got the whole building envelope modified, it was time to jump outside and figure out how to mount these solar panels to both the sidewall and the roof of the shipping container. So we ended up installing these panels on this shipping container 3 different times before we actually finally delivered it to the customer. And the very first time that we did it, we were just kind of going into a blind. A big problem that we had is we were expecting 1 meter by 2 meter panels, and larger panels showed up. So when we thought we were gonna get 6 panels wide on the side and 6 wide across the ceiling, there's only enough room for 5 panels, which ended up being positive in the long run. But at the start, it threw us for a little bit of a tizzy and affected our design. And so what we did is we ended up having to have like an 11-foot panel section and a 7-foot panel section, which is 3 panels and 2 panels, which is different than we originally wanted, just a 9-foot and a 9-foot section to lift up 3 panels at a time. So 4 different sections on this container. So 4 different times to flare them all outwards. But what we learned in the first go around is, for one, we didn't utilize deep enough strut channels. We used shallow strut instead of the deep strut on probably the most important part where they mount to the frame that we built, and that we were noticing we had flex in the panels a bit, and so we had to address that. But furthermore, they were just very heavy, and so when we went to pull the panel sections out, it was like a 4-person job to do that, and that's just unsafe, and we knew that it was something we needed to address. So we went back to the drawing board, and the second time that we did this, we added some they're wheels that go inside of strut channel. They're little bearings basically, and that kept the arms in line and in the strut channel as it goes up, and it made everything a little less floppy, so to speak, and a bit more safe. But still, we still had the panels in the 3-panel and 2-panel configuration. Also, at the second time that we installed them, we knew that the panel sections were heavy, so we purchased some torsion springs and we put them in the joints of the framing kit that holds the panels, thinking that that would reduce the weight to pull these things out, but they were still heavy and it was still dangerous. So we knew that as something we needed to address in this kit. So after the second time installing the solar panels, we had to deliver the unit to our customers so they could install all the sensitive equipment in the interior. And we were fortunate enough to be able to follow the truck as it was driving to the customer's location. And we noticed right away that the panel sections were catching wind and it was flexing them. And thank goodness that my horn's really loud. So I got on the horn and warned the driver that they need to slow down. And this brought up another issue and something that we kind of resolved, but we need to resolve more in the future, is just how to fasten and clamp these individual panel sections down so that during transport they can handle highway speed. Which, again, it was all the time that we had. We had to send this thing off to the customer and get that off to them and let them do their interior finishing. But the third time, when these panels came back, we had time to figure it out and we mastered the individual panel kits, and that was a huge breakthrough for us. So that, what we learned there is what's going to help people in the future, the DIYer, where potentially it's a very modular system and it's an expandable system. So if you have a 40-foot shipping container at home facing south and you want to purchase solar panels and you don't want to put them on the roof of your home, you can just purchase a kit at a time. So every paycheck, you buy a panel and a kit and you just slowly start expanding your solar array, and eventually you're potentially off the grid or just tied to the grid, but supplementing your power bill each month. And so that's something great that we've learned from this project. Once the customer was semi-finished with the work that they had to do, we had to go to their site, winch this thing up, and then bring it back to our yard. The transport and that went a little smoother from what we learned prior, but we still had to get the container back to our facility to make a lot of the adjustments for the third time that we're going to install these panels. Again, here we were under a major time crunch. We only had a few business days to get everything upgraded and up to par to transport the full distance. And I'm very glad our team was able to do what they were able to do and get these things so much improved. They're so much better the third time around. Every panel was individually operated. They were so light to flare out and mount either in the folded out 45-degree position or the flat position. So that we really learned something there. What we did change is we're noticing the flex on the panels, so we went to the full length strut channel where they mount. And then we also switched from a 12 gauge strut channel to a 14 gauge strut channel, which is actually a bit lighter and say a little bit weaker, but still way stronger than the initial narrow, shallow strut. But the Container Modification World strut channel that we've ordered direct and specific for our mods, it has little ribs in the inside of the channel, and the spring nut grabs those ribs and doesn't allow the spring nut to slide downwards. We've experienced that lots when we're installing shelving or whatever desks inside of containers that are finished with the strut channel interior. And so that was a huge bonus. And also the grab handles. We put handles at the bottom of the panels, and that allows a place for them to sit, and then also did the same thing on the top, but it's also a place for us to clamp down. And so with that grab handle in the future, we can integrate that into the design potentially and utilize that to really make sure these things are just held nice and snug against the container. Another huge aha moment that we had is these panels were 44 5/8 of an inch wide, and the corrugation panels on a shipping container, on this 20-foot container, there's 5 44-inch wide panel sections of the corrugation. So the panels match the corrugation spacing perfectly. So we're thinking to ourselves, there's 4 corrugations in every corrugation panel. We could probably just do a strut channel in 2 of those for every corrugation section, and that will give us a perfect individual mounting kit. So now we originally had 8 vertical sections to hold the whole array. We've jumped up to 10, but adding that extra material made this thing way more modular, way more simple to use, way safer, such a better design. even as is, it's, I think, perfected enough for me, for my home. I would utilize these the way they are, but that's how we roll around here. We're gonna keep working on things. We're gonna make it perfect. Before I get you a final tour of this thing, I'd just like to reflect on a few things that I would like to change. I would change the saddle brackets. Potentially there's a way that we could have it so that you could just pin them at certain degrees of angles. The stoppers, so to speak, that we utilize to hold these things in place at that specific angle, we need to have a more refined solution for that. And also just the way that these things tie down. I'd like to come up with a better solution where they just clamp and tie down to the container. But other than that, I think they worked out perfectly. Let's check it out. I'm Channing McCorston, the container guy. As I said, we have done this 3 times with this one job. We are hopefully gonna be building a couple more of them. We're gonna have this thing fully refined. But yeah, we're gonna jump down and show you exactly how we put all this together. Yeah, we're gonna lay these panels down right away here. And this thing is transporting with the panels attached. That's right, we're gonna be able to lay the top ones down and the side panels vertically. It's going about 500 kilometers, 300 miles. And yeah, I guess we'll see what kind of condition they're in when they get there. Follow along. So before we pull these things down, I just want to show a few of the changes that we've made. So we still have the column bearing wheels in the strut channel that allow this thing very nicely to open up and close. We put like a 45-degree open stop right here. So it's just a spring nut, a bolt, and a square washer, and that allows us to pull the panel out, hit that stop, and then we'll put another one here to hold it. So now, like, these things are solid. Actually, one thing we were going to do, and we doesn't look like we did, is we're going to put some silicone in behind here just to stop. We don't want to fasten through the wall and puncture the envelope. That's what everything that we are against. So we don't want to do that. We do want get rid of any of that rattle if it was windy. We put some grab handles down on the bottom of the panels, and the panels now rest on those grab handles. So as they're traveling down the road, that's holding the weight of it. And we just used our MSS angle brackets. And then I see they just put a couple of small screws through the bottom of the panel just to hold that there. And so now these things are locked in and held. These are the ones we're more worried about, the ones that are running vertically down the highway. And we've added some eye bolts here as well. We've replaced the bottom bolt with this, and this is going to allow us to strap the panels right tight against the container during transport. So we feel this is going to work. We were racing the clock in developing all this or getting this adjusted. We didn't have much time with the container here. And so we're going to go back to the drawing board now. We'll get this in our 3D model, the changes that we made, and try to just refine things, like maybe some caps for the ends of the strut, or if some of these generically purchased hardware, if we can actually get them laser cut and folded, and maybe a different design that's more user-friendly or just more common sense to the first-time user. But yeah, this thing is awesome. We had all the panels daisy chained together and ran into the inside of this, and they were generating power. So let's jump in there and see what it looks like all finished up. Before we jump in, we can see the system information here. And so what I said earlier, it's a 135 kilowatt max output, 3-phase 480 volt system. Yeah, there's a ton of power in here. I feel like when I'm in there, it's almost like you're in the room with your favorite celebrity or something. It makes me giddy. There's so much cool stuff in there, and yeah, it's expensive. So let's check it out. Wow, look at this all, like this breaker panel. It's great to see all the electricians or people that know this stuff that are looking at this can know what kind of value that's sitting in this can. And there's not just one, but come over here. There's 2 of these bad boys in here. So 2 huge panel setups. We got both of our air conditioners working great. They're so quiet in here and totally keeping the heat down right now. All the batteries and everything are charging, and it's cold in here. So I think these things are producing some heat, but the inverters aren't hooked to an entire solar field like they could be, which would be producing way more. This here is awesome, this automation board that we have. So inside of here is the whole PLC and the system. And so this thing not only runs everything inside of here, but it also is programmed to run the climate, which is what I'm really excited about for our channel and for other uses of shipping containers in commercial and industrial spaces. And maybe they'll also have some sort of play when we do a container home, if we do a container home. What this will do is it knows the ambient temperature outside, it knows the relative humidity, and it'll utilize outside temperature to cool this place rather than just constantly relying or utilizing the air conditioners, which are only going to produce more heat in the other side of this. That's awesome. It's got 3 cool settings and 3 heat settings, and use the most efficient source of heating or cooling that's available to it. So that's something that's really cool. We're working on it, and potentially, the actual hardware that's inside of there isn't very expensive, so it could be commercially available, maybe as the Container Guy product or Container Modification World product, and available to manufacturing generator shacks or water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, or solar powered inverter battery storage hubs such as this. You're gonna really appreciate that. One thing that you'll notice here is that there's a Schneider Homeline panel, which is very surprising. You got these I-line panels and then a Homeline. You'd think they'd put a square D there, but whatever. We didn't do the electrical in here. I wish we had a part of it, but we are going to be working with this customer on additional projects, 2 more similar to this, and we're going to be a lot more involved in that one. And so we're going to use that as a learning experience to, even smaller versions of this, but be able to commercialize this or make it available for the general public. I want to show you the other side of this. So here, look how many inverters there are. So these solar converters, there's 9 of them inside of this thing, and then 2 stores battery packs as well. So there's not a ton of battery capacity in this, but they got the generator that kicks in. We had a customer comment in the comment section below of one of our videos telling us, oh, if you're gonna do this, make sure you use the solar inverters, and we did. So whoever that was, if you're watching, there you go. But there's a ton of wiring in here. I really like how they did the finger track style cable trays to be able to run all the low voltage. That very nicely mounted horizontally across our vertical strut channels. Also, if you look up, you see all the tech cable running to everything, and how they're able to use the Cobra P straps to strap everything. It's just so neat and tidy in here. There's a lot going on in here. It does look very busy, but I mean, look how much stuff's inside of here. And so the user interface here also allows an operator. I think it's a very simple dashboard, so you can see everything that's going on here. I don't really want to touch anything because there's a camera right there, and they can actually monitor this thing all the time. They have 2 different sources of internet, and they can access that whenever. Maybe they're even watching us right now. Hopefully there's no audio. But yeah, this thing's awesome, and it's going to be that interface for the thermostat to run all the 3 heat settings and the 3 cool settings inside this thing. And when talking about the heat and cool setting number 1, that's this. This is our 16-inch exhaust fan. So we use the AC Infinity T16 exhaust fan, and we've built our custom frame for it for shipping containers. That frame is perfectly designed to fit between 2 strut channels. So these strut channels are 2 corrugations apart, which is about 22 inches. And then this fits just inside of here and gives us something to finish up to. So we really like how that turns out. That's a very clean, industrial method of installing these exhaust fans in the containers. And then this thing here is going to use the 4 intake dampers on the partition wall. We can jump over to the other side and show you what it looks like in there. We got a generator running right beside me. Sorry if it's a little bit loud, but we'll try to do this. We'll get you guys a little tour of here. So inside of here, we got a transformer. Took 2 tries to get this. I think the first one didn't have a neutral, but we got the proper transformer in here, and a huge disconnect. There's leads that are very simple for people to hook up generators into this thing, and then we do have an exhaust fan in here too to take care of some of that heat, and it can pull air either through the passive vents that are on the container doors or just right through the floor. So in this thing, we've removed the shipping container floor and we put the bar grating in place, and that allows both air to come up and in as intakes, but also any condensation that happens from the condenser boxes or from the head units that are inside of here drips down. So I can show you these here, and you can actually see water. I don't know if it might be hard to see, but you can see water inside this line already, and there's some dripping out down at the bottom, which is kind of cool. So they're already keeping me nice and cool over there. Up here, there's emergency stops, lights for the operator inside of here. If we jump over, it's tight. We have the two condenser units. So there'd be a primary and then a secondary. So cooling stage 2 and then cooling stage 3. So if for some reason the first condenser unit wasn't keeping up, we kick on the second separate unit, and that also gives us redundancy too. So if one of these things did go down, the other one can pick up where it left off. That's about it in here. It's just basically the mechanical room of it. Things that can dissipate heat or produce too much heat, we'll keep them separated from the inverters and all the other sensitive equipment inside the main compartment of this unit. So I'm really excited to show this thing off. It's amazing. We're going to be doing 2 more. I'm so excited for that as well, because we can continue to learn, myself and our team, and maybe come up with a more affordable version of this for the everyday person to help supplement some of their power or potentially go right off grid. So now that these are ready for transport, I'm actually really curious. I haven't measured this yet, but I want to see 7 inches extra. So this would be 8 foot 7 inches from this side, and then we have the man door handle on the other side. So we're under 9 feet overall width, which is very fair. I think other than in Europe, there's no problem transporting a little over width. So should be fine down the highway. And yeah, just amazing how quick we could have set these things down and redeploy them on that perfectly defined 45-degree angle now. So we're really happy with the way that these panels turned out now that they're all individually operated. It's not too heavy for the operator to open them up and close them down. Way less risk of injury to whoever's using them. So that pretty much wraps up this. We're going to continue to work on this product and hopefully share with you more videos. So if you enjoyed this video, please help us out. Give it a like. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to our channel and ring that bell for notification. And as always, check us out at tcg.ca. Hope you learned something.